Hi,
Too.
Kathy.
Go.
Good morning. Hi.
Good morning.
Hey, thanks for getting the book out to us already. That was super nice.
Yes. You're welcome. Glad it arrived. Paige worked hard and I helped too.
Thank you.
It was a project. Who knew? Yeah. Well, this is not a book group, and we will reference the book. The book can be like an ongoing reference guide. I'm not even going in order. Why? That's a very good question. Mostly because I think that the attachment material is necessary and not compelling. So I'm going for the bits that you can apply quickly. Welcome, Laura. Oh, I love this.
Oh, where's my guitar?
Good morning, Katie.
That closet, I think.
Good morning.
Morning, morning. So just as you're waiting for, you're arriving and people are getting settled, just let yourself start to breathe. Let this be a part of the meditative settling, which actually can be great in a lot of cases. If you're running errands or you're sitting at a stoplight or you're in traffic, whatever it is, we can get impatient. We can think that it's actually, we miss the time, but actually the time is a gift. It's like, oh, there's all sorts of shuffling and waiting and organizing. Oh, I could just sit here and breathe. I could take this time for myself because this is already your time. Yeah, just let yourself get a little bit settled. And I'm so glad you're here, that you made it. You prioritized this time for yourself. It's no small thing. I'm aware. So I think we'll just take another few breaths. We'll see if others are arriving, which they may be. And I'm glad. I'm just curious I'm not sure if everybody received a copy of my book. Did you get one? No, Laura? Yeah, it was a first 20 people. Welcome. Glad you're here. Where are you?
I'll purchase it myself.
Okay, thank you.
I listen to everything on audio anyways. So.
Oh, good. I did record it on Audible, so it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you located?
I live on Cape Cod in Massachusetts.
Nice. Beautiful. You want to say anything about your rare child or children?
Yeah, sure. I've 2 kids. I've a 3.5-year-old who's neurotypical, and then I have a 20-month-old son who was born with a very severe brain malformation. So at 4 months old, I'm actually a nurse practitioner, and just, I don't know, I feel like I've met so many moms of rare that are like, they were perfectly positioned to take care of these kids, but whether they want to or not, but he just wasn't like tracking toys, and the left side of his body seemed less responsive. So then he ended up having some seizure activity at 4 months, and we got this kind of crazy diagnosis. So he's it's just been a year of altering our expectations, and it's still relatively easy to do the day-to-day care because he's 20 months old, so he'd be having a lot of hands-on care anyways. But that picture is starting to change. And so, yeah, he's very limited verbal. He's G-tube fed. He's not rolling or sitting up, but he's really social and smiley and super motivated to walk. So we got him a gait trainer, just arrived yesterday, and he takes these very funny spastic steps, but he is so thrilled with himself. So that's a little bit about us.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm glad you're
But
here.
wow, it's been hard on a relationship. So I'm really excited to be here.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely, yeah. You know, kids, and just having kids is hard on a relationship, and then you add a rare diagnosis, and it's one more layer, a big layer, a huge layer. So, yeah, I just want to welcome Vicky, who's joining from her phone because she is at a clinic with her daughter. So, welcome, Vicky. So I think that and you can, yeah, everybody knows, does everybody know, you can see in the chat. Yeah, okay, we've all been on Zoom for like 2 years, so I guess we know a little bit about Zoom. So let's just begin with a little meditation, and I'm actually going to read you a poem that I love. Let me just make sure. I want to say it's wait a minute, I should read this one. I was going to read a different one. I think I might. I think I'll read this one. Pretty sure this is, let's double check. Yeah, this is Rumi. This is a wonderful book. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called Love Poems from God. It's translated by Daniel Ladinsky. He also translated The Gift by Hafiz. And this is 12 sacred voices from the East and West. And it has Hafiz and Rumi and Saint Catherine and Meister Eckhart and Kabir and Mira and yeah, Saint John of the Cross. So it's really across sacredness, but this one's from Rumi. So I'll read this and then we'll meditate for about 7 minutes just to arrive here. So you can make yourself comfortable and you can listen to the poem with your eyes open or closed. I like listening with my eyes closed. So this is called Relationship Booster. Here is a relationship booster that is guaranteed to work. Every time your spouse or lover says something stupid, make your eyes light up as if you just heard something brilliant. So Rumi is pointing us in the direction of the reframe, which is really wise. Oh. Taking a breath. And letting your body settle. Letting your body settle. And recognizing that you have chosen to be here and that you're taking time for yourself, prioritizing yourself. So as you're breathing, receive that you are prioritizing yourself. And each breath is an invitation to receive yourself this moment, this wonderful community of amazing, rare mothers. Just receive. And this practice of receiving might be familiar to you, and it might be new. This is active receptivity. I'm actively receiving my breath, experiencing the sensation as it travels through the body. Just letting your mind stay gently focused on your breath. And if it wants to wander, you can beckon it back to the breath. And receiving is an essential skill in relationship. Receiving what your partner is doing or not doing, how they're being or not being, how it touches you. Receiving is an act of generosity. And right now, the practice is to offer this generosity to yourself. Noticing what you're experiencing right now in the physical body without judgment or evaluation, just a noticing of a particular sensation. Might be tension somewhere, or tingling or pulsing. Just notice. And if the mind is wandering here and there, just gently invite it back to the breath. taking another moment to thank yourself for turning your attention inside. Makes no difference if your attention was highly focused or highly distracted. The point is, you're sitting here, so you can thank yourself. And as you're ready, to let the eyes open. And so, just from here, you want to just take a minute. If you have a journal or a piece of paper, that's something that we'll use on a regular basis. So, from here, from this place of perhaps a little more settled and quiet, what do you bring to your team? Your team is your family, your team is your partnership, your marriage. What do you bring to your team? What's your offering? What's your contribution? So we'll just write for maybe a little less time, probably 5 minutes. Just take your time. And also, what does your partner bring? If you just start with the first question and then move on to the second. What are the qualities, the gifts that they bring? And there's no need to read this to anybody, so you're writing it for yourself, and you're welcome to read it. Make sure you're breathing. Taking another minute or so. Just finishing up. So I'm curious what came up in the meditation and also the reflection, right? We reflected, and I'm wondering, first of all, what came up and what was easier, to acknowledge yourself and what you bring, or to acknowledge your partner. And I just want to check. I think everybody, Laura, is your partner man? Okay, so I can use that. I'll use that verbiage if and until we have a different combination of people. And yours is too, Cindy, yes. Okay. What came up? What are the gifts that you're bringing, and how was that to acknowledge? Because acknowledgement is a team skill. It's a great team skill. And receiving is a flavor of acknowledgement. Or perhaps acknowledgement is a flavor of receiving. I think it can go either way. Who would like to begin?
I'll just say I found it, I think my temperament, I'm very self-critical, and I think I'm in more of a self-critical space right now, but I found it much harder to acknowledge what I bring to the team than what my partner does. And I think I also just noticed, I think because I feel like there's just more sort of strain or just energy drain in our relationship right now. Like the first things that came up were just sort of the things that he brings that are sort of trying to help us get back to good connection. And then it took me a little while to settle into, okay, when we're well connected, like what do we each bring? And I think that was easier for me to kind of, it was harder for me to get there for like, right now, I feel like it was just the like compensating sort of for the lack of energy and kind of the stress that we feel kind of as a family that came up first. And then sort of like, oh, well, when we're feeling well, like what are the, you know, I think he brings like a real sense of adventure and spontaneity, and that's not me. But I think that it took me a little while to kind of get to that, because I feel like those things haven't manifest much recently, because there's been very little sort of fun or silliness or lightness in our relationship in general recently, but those are things that he kind of brings to our team.
Well, there's a lot there, and I just want to say though, you're starting where you are, right? You start where you are. You're in this place of, oh, we're not as connected as we might be. And what is he bringing? He's bringing these kind of compensation offerings, connection offerings. And I'm curious also what those are. Because does anybody else feel like they could use a connection, a mechanism for connecting? I mean, I think we need those on a regular basis. I mean, I know that's my experience, is that it's a practice to stay connected, and to also, I just really want to, I'm going to keep weaving this thread of receiving in. I'm just receiving where we're at. Oh, we're kind of distant. We're having a hard time. All right, I'm receiving that. Means I'm letting it in. Means I'm letting it feel like, this doesn't feel really good. It makes me kind of a little tight, or a little like collapsed, or I don't know how it makes you feel. And so to just start where you are, I just want to say, is really the invitation. I'm not looking for like the yay, confetti, glory things going on. It's like, if that's happening, wonderful. And if it's not, I'm interested in what's happening now. I think that's the most useful for us, is just to begin where we are. So what are some of the mechanisms he's offering? Just one or two?
Well, I think one is sort of physical connection. I think that like that's definitely a like priority for him more than it is kind of a love language or whatever for me. But I think even just like small kind of sort of touch, like at the end of the night after we've gotten the kids to bed, like sitting down and physically like touching, like just being physically connected. And I think when I'm feeling more stressed, I think I manifest that as irritability, and I sort of am a little bit more like not sure that I want to be touched, or I'm not like it's not occurring to me that that's important. And so I think he sort of he like verbalizes that is an important way that we can connect, and B, like he reaches out, like, can I give you a head rub, or can I, that kind of thing, like offers. So that's one way. I think the other way is knowing when we're really busy and overscheduled. Like we have a shared family Google Calendar, and he will like put in, even without knowing what my schedule is, like put in a 30-minute like walk somewhere in the day when he hopes that we'll both be free. But I think just the act of like trying to find a time to connect. And I think when I feel overstretched and overscheduled, I think I'm not necessarily like looking ahead and prioritizing that the same way he is. So I really think that he like making the effort to find the time to be together. And great. Even if it doesn't work out, the fact that he's reaching out with that.
Yeah, that's really great. Both are really great. And you mentioned the love languages. I don't know if have people read about the 5 love languages a little bit. There's a system called the 5 love languages, Gary Chapman. And one of them is touch, words of affirmation. What else do we have? Acts of service. 2 more.
Like shared time, or connect, like quality
shared
time or something.
Yeah, quality time, and speaking. So it's good to know what yours is and what your partner's is if you want to create connection. And it's also, I think it was good that you mentioned, Katie, that it's not your love language. Touch is not your love language necessarily. And I saw you, Laura, nodding, like if you're feeling irritable and somebody goes to touch you, it might not be your first. Yeah, it's kind of like, So, and touch is helpful to make that time. And sometimes we have to relax and sort of ease into touch, and it doesn't necessarily need to lead to a kind of a sexual context, but more of like just intimate. Here, we're just being together. We're just holding each other. So, yeah, thank you. And as far as the inner critic, we will work with the inner critic. And whenever she arises, just really just say no thank you. Say thank you and no thank you. Because the inner critic she can just run the show. And she directly interferes with self-acknowledgement and receiving. It's very hard to receive ourselves when the inner critic is running her shtick up there. Well, thank you. And I just want to say, if anybody else wants to if you want to respond to each other, you are invited. or what else came up for you? Meditation or the reflection?
I'm happy to share. I started with sharing my husband's things that he brings to the team, just because they were like, they came to mind easier. And his are like structure, financial stability. He's working full time, and I'm trying to take care of the kids and juggle everything else. Organization and loyalty. And that was kind of it for him that I could come up with. It's like he's pretty simple. Maybe men are in general, but like he just like works and shows up every day, and he's super loyal and great family guy. And then my list was like much more like detailed, like all the random stuff that I bring, like food prep, you know, playfulness, creativity. It was interesting. I feel like those, even the list kind of like represented some of the like disequilibrium that we're trying to come to. Like we both used to work full time, and now with complex kid at home and everything else that's come up of that, I've had to pretty much stop working. I work like 10 hours a week, but it's like very imbalanced, and I feel like I'm doing a ton and he feels like he's doing a ton. And but our work is so dramatically different that it was interesting that like even my list like kind of represented where sometimes we're misfiring with each other and both feeling underappreciated. Then I hit at the bottom like what we're both doing, and family values come out really strong. We're just really both showing up for our kids. And I think that's like the biggest reason why we're continuing to lean into our relationship with each other. It's like for our kids as a starting point.
Yeah, I think you brought up a really good one, which is appreciation, right? Appreciation, acknowledgement, that receiving that he's receiving what you're doing, all the many things that you're handling to manage a household and a rare child and work some is huge. And sometimes, you know, in your structure and the more traditional structure, the man is working. I mean, now everybody works, but in your case, he's working now full time, and that just receiving that contribution of, oh, I have financial stability, like just receiving the steadiness, because one of the things that can be really wonderful in the masculine is the steadiness and the loyalty, that word loyalty. So to really receive is important. So that would be one of the things that you can both bring to the team, is that appreciation of what the other is bringing. And I mean, it's also the things that we're doing and the qualities that we bring, like creativity and playfulness and all that, as well as just how am I being? There's a lot to be said for how I'm being. How are we being? How am I being with myself? How am I being with you? That's a huge contribution to the team if I'm bringing that. Anybody else want to offer any reflections to Laura? Or can you relate? And I just want to say hi to Catherine. It's a nice surprise. Catherine's here this week. She was going to do every other week. Anything that you want to say? Can you relate? Jump in.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yes, I can definitely relate. And I am really, what's the word, guilty of not necessarily acknowledging what my husband does. Like if I'm doing the dishes late at night, or if I'm like doing laundry or whatever, all those things. However, he totally will fold laundry. He'll you know, he'll jump in and he'll help as well. But like when I'm in the middle of it, and then I've also worked a very long day and feel like I have a bad habit of saying I feel like I do everything, although I know it's not true. It's 100% not true. But we've been married like almost 22 years. And he does a lot, and he's a great person, and he is loyal, and I'm very thankful for our marriage. So I feel badly when I, you know, feel like it's just me, because it's not. So something I need to work on too, or something that I need to work on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great awareness. And I think also, like, I don't know, Kathy, do you say that out loud? Or is that just a thought that you have? Oh, I feel like I do everything.
I say it out loud, like when I'm in the middle of doing dishes and they're like sitting over there watching TV. I'm like, when's the last time I got to sit down and watch TV? Not that I even really want to waste my time watching TV, but at least the thought of like having the option.
Relaxing.
Relaxing, yeah, right. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll take a nap with my daughter. If she wants to take a nap on the weekend, I'm happy to take a nap. Like that is sometimes my, you know, my happy place, you know, just go get some rest. But yeah, so I guess if you have any ideas on how to, but I am really good about verbalizing it. I don't want to keep it inside, because then I'll feel like I'll explode. But then I also don't want him to feel badly, because he does do so many things. So do you have any tips on that?
I could certainly say something about that. It takes a lot of discipline and discernment to know when not to say something, not to stuff it down, right? We don't want to stuff it down, and we don't want to blurt it out. I mean, some of us are more on the side. I'm more on the side of blurting.
Me too.
And who's on the side of stuffing? Anybody else on the side of stuffing? Okay, great. So you know, this is where you fall. So neither is better or worse. They're both sort of not completely functional, because it means that I'm stuffing, and that has its consequences, and blurting also has its consequences. So just taking a minute really to receive what I'm feeling. This doesn't feel good for one reason or the other. I feel like I'm having the thought probably, oh, I'm doing everything. And I mean, this is it. And then once it comes out, though, it definitely does more damage, because there's a way to address it, to sit down after, because what's the value of feeling something, right? Taking the time to feel it. What happens when you feel something? What happens to the energy of it, the emotion of it? Question mark. I know you know. It
Are you
shifts,
just asking
right?
me? Anybody else can jump in.
I'm asking everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. So it shifts, right? When we stay with, this is why I'm beginning us with these meditations of noticing and tracking and feeling. I'm just feeling it. I'm feeling it. I'm not judging it. I'm not wishing it would go away. I'm just experiencing what's here, which is one of the greatest things I think we can do for ourselves and others, is just experience it. And then when I'm in a place of calm, I might say, hey, honey, I'm wondering if we could reorganize the household tasks. I'm just feeling like, how can we balance this out more? And then you could say, oh, I'm feeling like I'm doing too much, and I want to feel like there's more equilibrium, or I'd really love some more time to relax, right? I'd really love to be able to just chill. I don't actually want to watch TV, but I just want to go over there and lay down and stretch my back for 15 minutes or half an hour or whatever it is. So just neutralizing and then speaking, or neutralizing the urge to say something, and then neutralizing also, what am I feeling? If we're on the stuffing end, oh, what am I feeling? I don't like this. Because then you might notice that when we don't say things, we get prickly, because then it's like it's getting stacked up and can turn into resentment sometimes when we don't say things. So finding the right moment, kind of a neutral moment to say something, is part of having a great team. Let's work together. How do we work together? And I'm not saying this is easy. It just takes practice.
Great
Yes.
ideas. Thank you.
Welcome. Phyllis.
You know, listening to Kathy and Katie and Laura, I have an interesting perspective because I went through this when my children were alive. I had the 3 sons that passed away from Hunter syndrome. I went through this relationship thing with my husband when they were alive. And then, due to circumstances or choices or whatever, we divorced and were apart. And then, in later marriages, when he was widowed and I was widowed, we got back together. And I'm noticing now that the things that you guys are talking about, I lived through then, and I'm living through now. And what Padma is saying about the communication part really works. It would have worked then if I'd known it then, but it works now. When I think of what I bring to my team, and when I say my team, I'm talking about my rare mothers, you gals, that relationship. I think what I bring to the team is to step up and say, you guys are doing all the right things. You're showing up for these meetings. You're meditating. Those were the things that got me through, was prayer and meditation. And you're taking walks and you're doing exercise. So good for you. We didn't have Angel Aid. I stuffed everything inside and kept it inside of me until one day I just burst and shared the pain, the challenges, and the joys with the lady in the grocery line behind me, because I couldn't keep it inside anymore. But now I have you girls, and it's such a blessing. I can't even put it into words, express it. So thank you so much for showing up and sharing your story, because your stories help me to feel good about myself, because you're doing the right things. Good for you.
Oh, thank you so much, Phyllis. We appreciate you being here as our elder here, and you've walked this path very deeply, and you still are. What else is here?
One of the things, this is a little bit maybe off topic, but based on sort of what Laura said about kind of the feeling of inequality of work, and I think that I feel like there is, usually a big shift with a child with a rare diagnosis. In someone is going to have to be home more, or caring for the child more, or doing more related to just the logistics of family life, because that burden becomes much greater than with typical children. And I think, and it's often the moms, and maybe it is mostly the moms in this group, but there's sort of more external acknowledgement and appreciation for work done outside the home. And I think that there's less kind of external validation from like the community, even other moms or other families, for like work done inside the home. And then I think there's just a underappreciation, or like inability to understand kind of how great that work is when you have a rare child. And I think that for me, that has been a hard thing. And I kind of cut back on my work, or changed my career a lot. And I still do work outside the home, but it changed a lot. And I'm the primary one kind of coordinating my son's medical care. And my husband is absolutely like shows up. And whenever I can't go to an appointment, or, you know, I work now more weekends or nights because of our schedule, and that means he's always on for those times. But I think I just wanted to acknowledge that that's sort of a hard thing, I feel like. And I think for me, I'm a stuffer, and sort of that has built kind of resentment at times for like, you know, it's easier to be like, okay, you had a hard day at work, but like, gosh, this was a really like hard day, or just like, I couldn't get through to the insurance company. I couldn't make the appointments I needed to. I couldn't, you know, there's all this sort of frustration and this feeling of like, I made certain sacrifices in order for this to work for our family. And how does that kind of factor into like the expressions of appreciation or just acknowledgement that, you know, I'm not working hard at my job or pursuing the career that I thought I was going to because of this. And that was a sacrifice and a choice that I made or that we made. But I don't know where I'm quite going with this, but just to acknowledge that I feel like that's a big underlying, like something that lies in the background of our relationship too.
That's really important. Thank you for saying that. I mean, also because Laura mentioned that she's at home and, you know, working less, going from working full time to working less is a big deal. And in our society, we do recognize the person who's like the breadwinner. And, you know, you had a hard day at work. Well, being at home with a child with a rare condition is a huge job. So I think, though, you're pointing to how can you feel appreciated. So even though this is the, like, we're talking about how to really be on a good team, appreciation is kind of like greases the wheels of the team. So having time, maybe at the end of the day, this is something that can be useful, and you might want to jump ahead to the chapter on appreciation, is just taking just 5 minutes or maybe 3 minutes each, set a timer. And then the practice is what I appreciate about you, what I'm appreciating about you right now. And if it's and it's just saying there's something, I don't know if you've ever worked with like a repeating question or a repeating phrase. When you use the same basic phrase or sentence stem, it's sometimes called the base of a sentence. Like what I am appreciating about you now is. What I'm appreciating about you now is. It just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And you take your time. And part of the practice is, let's see, maybe we should do it for a minute. I think that would be good. Should we try doing it? Can somebody want to volunteer? I'll just practice it with you for a moment. Just raise your hand. If you don't raise your hand, I will pick somebody. Thank you, Phyllis. Okay. I'm going to appreciate you, Phyllis. How's that? And your job is just to receive and to take your time. So, Phyllis, what I'm appreciating about you right now is your open-hearted presence. Just breathe it in.
Thank you. Thank you for appreciating my open mind and my open heart. That really feels good.
Right.
And I'm so glad that you're going down this road right now, Padma, because what I've noticed with this time around with my husband is that the first time around, I kept thinking I had to quit college because we went to college together, and then we got pregnant, and then the second and third and fourth child got sick, and I had to give up my education and my potential career. And that was so big in my mind that watching what my husband was doing, I wasn't seeing. But now I can see that the person I fell in love with in the beginning and the things I loved about him, he had those things. I just was
Mhm.
so busy thinking about my stuff that I didn't
Mhm.
recognize what he was doing. Now, you know how they do things? We were just, I don't remember which one of you said it, but you see things that he does. And what Padma's saying is when you see those things, no matter how simple it is, say it out loud.
Mhm.
That's what I've begun
Yeah.
doing with Richard. And it's opened up a whole world for us, for him
Mhm.
as an individual, and for us as a couple, because I'm
Mhm.
acknowledging his part in what has been going on with us.
Right. That's great, Phyllis. Yeah, and then you're basically growing a culture of appreciation, right? That's what it is, rather than looking for what's wrong or complaining or, the things that we all do. The mind naturally goes to the negative. It just does. And so we retrain it to go to, wow, what can I appreciate? And as the woman of the house, whether you're working or not, you're the woman of your household, you're leading. So you're leading your team. And what are you leading in? So basically the practice is that you appreciate what I'm appreciating about you now is, or what I really appreciate that you took out the trash, and the other person just says thank you. I appreciate that you came home and then you took the kids right away. And then and then you pause. So you do that. Let's do it for 3 minutes. Set a timer. Is that too long? I don't think it's too long. Is 6 minutes total too long? Will you find 6 minutes at the end of your day? Should we do it for 4? I want to make it so it's doable. What do you think?
Oh, I don't understand. I give an immediate response.
Well, you can do it that way. I'm actually suggesting that we do. I mean, immediate response is awesome, but you practice that. So this is a practice
Oh,
container. At the end of your day,
end of the
you
day.
just sit for 2 minutes or 3 minutes each and say, wow, this is what I appreciate about you. And you just say, thank you. And you let it in, because that's the receiving. And you notice how it feels. Oh, like you feel that your shoulders drop. Oh, it's like there's a relief. But we're not going to name everything that's going on. We're just going to receive. I'm just going to say thank you. And you can set them up and say, honey, can we do this? And maybe every day is too much. Maybe shoot for like 3 times in the week. 3 times in the week for either two minutes each or 3 minutes each. And then in between, just take a big deep breath and just say, ah, okay. And sit in a chair, make sure you're comfortable, make sure you've eaten. This is not somebody walks in the door and you do it. This is we've kind of unwound a little bit. Everybody's had a few minutes to themselves. Nobody has an urgent need for anything. So that's the practice. 3 times a week. Maybe it'll be 3 minutes each on either side, 3 times a week. 3, 3, 3. Does that make sense? Are there any questions about that? Okay. How about Finn or Catherine or Vicky? Do you have anything you want to say? Chime in. Is this touching you? Does this feel like it could be useful?
I had a comment back about what Kathy was saying. I don't know if you want to go back that far. Kathy,
Whatever is welcome.
when you were talking about doing the dishes, it just reminded me of a time in my life when I was always upset with myself, and I was like doing all this stuff, was working so hard at it, and I was like everything was late, like it was always late. And I finally realized that I felt like a complete failure. And I realized everything I was doing, that I was doing everything I wanted to get done. It was just like about 6 hours after I wanted to get it done. And so I realized I either had to just do it earlier or just move my time later, right? Like your kitchen, like a kitchen is a great example because it can always look dirty. Like it could, you know, you could wait a really long time to clean it, but you do clean it eventually because you reuse those dishes eventually, right? Like, so no matter how bad it gets, you are cleaning everything. And so anyway, so it's like this, we have this treadmill of work that we do, and I was finding that I was considering myself a failure, even though I was doing all the work. It was just like a little later than I wanted it done. So anyway, that's not about relationship. That's just that can be part of a talk about how you want your house to go. You know, because we have this conversation all the time. Do we have the kitchen entirely clean every night or not? And if it does have to be entirely clean every night, then that's one work setup. But if you can let it float sometimes, that's a different work setup. So anyway.
That's great. Actually, that is about relationship, because relationship, and that's why the name of my book is Being Together, Practical Wisdom for Loving Yourself and Your Partner. Because how am I being with myself? Am I just doing 10,000 things and I'm like, oh, I still failed. I'm still falling short. Or am I saying, and I do this, honestly, when I get something done, I'm like, oh, good job. You finished that, you know, good job. You walked the dog. Good job. You did whatever the task is. So that the appreciation and the acknowledgement starts with, I'm acknowledging myself. I'm acknowledging, because also that we're filling up our own cup, right? The cup of your heart is getting filled when you're saying, oh, I did a great job today. I cooked all the meals. I did all the shopping. I cleaned up this. I organized that. I made this beautiful this. Whatever I did. I made these phone calls. I finally got through the insurance company. Yes, well done. Right? That I'm giving that to myself. And the more I do it with myself, the more I'll naturally do it with my team. So these are life practice skills. And as Phyllis said, you eventually, it becomes who we are. And I've practiced this a ton because I am Virgo. Can be the most self-critical and very particular. And so to look for what's working, to look for what's good. And my partner he's just naturally really messy. And so I've learned to accept and just be grateful and train him to like be a little more present and with the program. So practice appreciating. So let's just we're 1 minute over. Yeah, I guess I'll close there and be honoring of your time, and so thankful to all of you for being here, for showing up. It makes a huge difference. You can offer this to yourself and the people in your lives. Paige, you came back. Is there anything you want to say? Yeah.
I just want to make sure that you all know about the Mighty Networks workshop group, just in case there's anything that comes to mind throughout the week that you want to chat with others about. There's a feature that you can chat like directly or chat in a group, or you can just post to the page like Facebook. If you join, you'll see that I've posted a few things, just kind of show you what that looks like. And then all of these are also held there if you ever wanted to go back and refer to one of these meetings.
Does that make sense? So what, you click on the workshop and then you get to a message board and a place to communicate with each other, or bring up things, or say, oh, I'm doing really great. You can report that you're doing really well. You can report that you're challenged. And you're also welcome to message me on Mighty Networks anytime. Just send me a message through there. I check it periodically. Very welcome to do that. All right. Well, I so appreciate everyone being here. Deeply. You can send a hug across the universe. And yeah, feel free to look at the syllabus. We won't be, we will follow the syllabus. We will not be going straight through the book. And if you do have the book or you're listening to it, it's actually great to read with your partner, if that can somehow happen, or just leave it around and say, hey, maybe you want to just take a look at that if you have a few minutes. You know, reading is not something we can all do all the time.
Well, thank you, everybody. And thank you for everybody's being here and for your comments. I appreciate it very much and your insights.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi,
Thanks for
everyone.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
Bye.
Have a great week. We will see you next time.